This section will cover the self-erection assembly process. For this process, we'll extend the crawlers, erect the gantry, and install the counterweight. But before starting, first confirm the following items. First, we will place the LMI into setup mode by pushing the setup button on the LMI and hold it for 3 seconds. This is the button with a picture showing the boom apart. It is important that the ground is level and firm. Place the machine in an area with enough room to assemble the machine and allow haul trucks to pass. First, we will extend the crawler frames. It is important to note that the crawler frames should only be extended or retracted with all counterweight removed. Swing the 4 extension axles out 90 degrees toward the outside so that they are parallel with the axles. The axles will provide the support track frames after they have been extended into the working position. Remove lock brackets for the extension axles from the crawler frame and place them into the foot side of extension axles. The bracket will hold the extension axles in the extended position. Remove the shims for adjusting the clearance between the crawlers and axles and place them aside for later installation. Remove the locking pins from the 4 crawler frame slide arms and place them into the hole next to it. Operate the extension lever located on the left side near the operator's seat to extend the crawler frames out to the working position. Please note that the machine will take the path of least resistance and may move far right or left depending on ground conditions. The locking pins will fall into place after the track frames are completely extended. It may be necessary to travel a short distance forward or backward slowly while extending the crawler frames. And make sure to install hairpin keepers in all 4 locking pins to hold them in place. Then, install the shims in between the crawler frame and axle to take up the extra clearance. It may be necessary to swing the machine and shift the weight to install all shims. We will now raise the gantry from the transport position up to the working position. Make sure the boom base is on the ground. Disconnect the tension members and cylinders from the main frame and place the cylinder transport mounting brackets in the toolbox. Move the gantry cylinder control switch inside the cab to the up position. Take up excess boom cable slack as needed to keep the cable tight on the drum. After the gantry is fully raised, install tension member locking pins. We will now install the boom point section onto the boom base section. Use the lugs on the boom base section to position the boom point section as needed for installation. First, track the machine to the point section. Then, attach the point to the boom base section. Use the double taper type pins for the lower pin locations. The double taper pins are needed for a safer disassembly of the boom. Install proper guide cables for boom base and tip only. Each of the guide cables are stamped with an ID number. The guy line arrangement chart for this and all guy line arrangements are on a chart that is kept in the cab and also in the operator's maintenance manual. We are now ready to install the load block on this machine. Reeve the hook block using the front drum for the main hook block. Keep a tight pull on the wire rope as the drum is rotating to prevent the wire rope from becoming loose on the drum. Run the cable through the right-handed idler sheave and down to the point sheaves. The reeving diagrams are shown in the operational and maintenance manual. For the demonstration and self-assembly, we will reeve this machine with 6-part line on the main load block. Install the anti-2 block weight on the cable after reeving the block. Then install the wedge socket and mount onto the boom tip. Note the decal on the point section illustrating the proper mounting of the wedge socket to the boom point. We will now connect the anti-2 block system. Install the anti-2 block limit switch to the boom tip. Run the anti-2 block cable from the cable reel to the tip and secure it to the boom mounting bracket. Connect the wires for the anti-2 block system at the limit switch and complete the circuit by making the final connection at the reel. Now pull the limit switch by hand and make sure the ATB or hook over hoist trouble code on the LMI warning bar is discontinued. Now boom up to clear the block from the ground. We should now set the LMI to our present crane configuration. Set up the LMI by first pressing the menu switch while the main screen is displayed. Then the item selection screen appears. On the item selection screen, select the setting with the up-down arrow switches and then press the Set switch. Next, select the setting of the crane posture among the items displayed on the screen with the up-down switch, and then press the Set switch. Boom length selection screen is displayed. Select 40 feet and push Set. Next, the jib type selection screen is displayed. Select Unuse. Then the jib offset angle selection screen will be displayed. Select Unuse once again, since the machine is not equipped with the jib. The main hook selection screen will now be displayed. This time select Use. Next is the auxiliary hook selection. Select Unuse. Lastly, select the number of the part line input. Use the right arrow and enter 6 for the main hook and push Set. After all the settings and input are complete, the screen automatically returns to the main screen and the settings are displayed on the lower part of the screen. It is important that you check all your settings before continuing. At this point, use the crane to lay out all additional boom inserts that the job requires. For this demo, we will add a 20-foot boom insert and an auxiliary sheave. First, we will lay out the 20-foot insert onto 4x4 blocks. Make sure to install one boom roller per boom insert. We're now ready to install the counterweights onto the machine. For easier installation, it is important that you place the crane on a firm and level ground. We will start with the car body counterweights. Car body weights are 2 weights installed on the front and rear of the main frame, and each weighs 7,360 pounds. Lift the car body weights with the assisting crane and install them by hooking them with the car body brackets. The car body weights can also be installed by connecting nylon sling and suitable lifting device between the lifting eyes and the lugs on the bottom of the boom base. In this case, be extremely careful and make sure that the lifting device is rated to lift the weight. After the car body weights have been installed, you will need to install the main counterweights. On the CK850, there are 2 main counterweights. Place the counterweights number 1 and number 2 on a firm and level ground with enough space to back the machine up to the counterweights. Set the number 1 weight with the mounting brackets towards the crane and the number 2 weight with the lights toward the rear. Place them about 4 feet apart. Number 1 counterweight weighs 27,340 pounds and the number 2 counterweight weighs 27,560 pounds. Back the machine up to within about 4 feet of the number 1 counterweight. Raise the boom angle to approximately 65 degrees and remove backstop spacers from the holders and place around the inner tubes of the backstops. Then raise the boom hoist as needed to align the fixing holes in the backstop tubes. The pin can be inserted when the boom angle is approximately 78 degrees. Insert the fixing pins to lock the inner and outer backstop tubes together. Install the red flag between the pins as a reminder that the backstops are locked. Raising the boom until the pinhole has passed or after the pin is inserted will cause damage to the boom or backstop. We now need to remove the gantry cylinder rods from the gantry. Operate the control switch inside the cab as needed to remove tension from the cylinders. Then fully retract the cylinder rods. Now lower the boom hoist control to remove the load on the gantry tension member pins. Remove the pins and place them in the holders. Now as the boom hoist is lowered, the gantry will lower and the boom will stay in a fixed position. Now you need to connect the control to the side of the cab. It is important that you make sure that the engine is stopped. This control box will control the hydraulic cylinders to raise and lower the main number 1 and number 2 counterweights into place. After the control has been plugged in, start the engine and run engine at approximately 1000 RPM. First, we will install counterweight number 1. Fully retract the right and left lift cylinders and set the gantry in the low position by lowering the boom hoist. Make sure the counterweight cylinders and tension members hang free from the gantry as it is being lowered. Connect the link from the counterweight cylinder to the number 1 counterweight. Raise the gantry up by using the boom raising operation. Lower the counterweight number 1 onto the main frame by operating the control box, while keeping the counterweight balanced using the counterweight cylinders. Pass the bolt through the weight and fix the weight to the frame with the nut. Then remove the counterweight link pins. In order to mount the number 2 weight, remove the last link from the counterweight mounting cylinders and use the same process to install the number 2 weight. Attach counterweight number 2 to counterweight number 1. After the number 2 counterweight is installed, remove the link pins and install the longer bolt to secure weight. Once the counterweights are installed, we need to place the gantry back to the locked position. Raise the boom hoist to align the gantry tension's member pin holes. Install both tension member lock pins. Raise the boom hoist as needed to remove the tension from the backstop locking pins. Remove the locking pins and the red caution flag. Please note that over-hoisting the boom when removing the backstop locking pin may damage the backstop or the boom base. Never leave these spacers on during normal crane operation. Operating the CK850 with the spacer installed will cause catastrophic damage to the boom. Lower the boom hoist to remove tension from the red backstop spacers. Remove the backstop spacers and place them on the holding brackets. Never leave these spacers on during normal crane operation. Raise the gantry cylinders as needed and install the pins in the gantry cylinder rod locations. To finish the counterweight assembly, connect the wiring connector of the swing flasher located on the counterweight side. Stop the engine. Then disconnect the connector of the control box. We are now ready to install the additional boom section. Lower the point section near the last boom section and place the block on the ground. Place the LMI back into the setup mode. Disconnect wire rope and spool up the wire rope to the boom base section. Lower the boom tip to the ground. Then raise the spreader guide brackets on the boom base. Lower the spreader until it slides into the brackets on the boom base. Do not allow the boom cable to become excessively loose or become loose on the drum. Pin the lower spreader to the boom base mounting bracket. Raise the boom hoist cable until the tension is off of the 4 boom connector pins. First, remove the 2 lower double taper pins. These pins are designed to be removed while standing safely outside of the boom. Then position 4x4 blocks under the boom point and lower to the ground. Disconnect the guide cables off of the spreader, then remove the 2 top boom connecting pins. Next, make sure to disconnect the anti-2 block cables and spool the cable up on the reel. Slowly back the machine away from the boom tip. Use the lugs on the boom base section to position the boom tip onto the last boom insert. Install the 4 boom connecting pins. Next, you will need to track the machine to the first insert and align the base to the insert. Install the top connecting pins. Connect all guy lines. The guy line arrangement chart is located in the cab or in the operator's maintenance manual. Then raise the boom hoist to align the bottom holes. Install the double tapered pins. Lower the boom to remove tension on the upper spreader. Once this is complete, remove the connecting pins from the spreader to the base. Then raise the spreader to clear the brackets. Once again, lower the guides and install the pins on the spreader and secure them with the locking pins. Using the front drum for the main block, reeve the block with whatever parts of line are required for the job. For this demo, we will use 4 parts line for the main block. For the load ball, use the rear drum, which will use 1 part of line on the auxiliary sheave. First, connect the anti-2 block weights and limit switches to the tip of the auxiliary sheave. The donut-style weight is for the ball, and the other weight is for the block. Once again, connect the anti-2 block cable to the limit switches and complete the connection at the reel. Before operating, confirm that all guy cable cotter pins are properly bent and all boom pins are installed and keeper pins are in place. And make sure the boom is free of any pins, tools, or loose articles. Now pull the limit switches for the ATB system on the main hook and on the load ball, and confirm that the fault codes on the LMI warning bar are eliminated. The out of angle should be the only code remaining. We are now ready to boom the machine up into the working position. After the machine has reached the working radius, all fault codes on the LMI should be eliminated. Double check to make sure that the anti-2 block is working on the main hook and also on the load ball. Also check that the high boom angle kickouts are working properly. In this configuration, the high boom angle should kick out at 82 degrees. Now the machine is ready for operation.